Euro members across the world. This interview is with Beverly Sunn, the president of Asia Pacific Properties based in Hong Kong. This interview was recorded on the 8th of April, and as we know, very fast-moving situation, some information may have been superseded by the time you watch the interview. Hello and welcome back to our series of interviews with Euros members around the world. It is my great pleasure to introduce you to Beverly Sunn, president of Asia Pacific Properties. I've had the privilege of knowing Beverly for some years, and it's always a delight to see you and to catch up with you. I mean, first of all, how are you, and what is the situation right now in Hong Kong?
Hello, Dominic. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for the invitation. I am very pleased to share a part of what we have been experiencing in Hong Kong. I would say that the seriousness of the matter arose in early January, and we have actually been in crisis mode and crisis management in handling the number of inquiries that have come out since January. I would say that our numbers in respect of cases were quite low until the beginning of March, when the rest of the world started to understand the seriousness of COVID-19. And it was at that time that many of the cases that we see now were imported, either returnees, students, or families returning to Hong Kong to be with their families, or others who thought that they could be in an environment where the cases were very low. And we, to date, have lost only 4 lives, which is quite extraordinary for a population of about 7.5 million people.
That is extraordinarily low. But so disappointingly, it's actually got slightly worse since the rest of the world. I mean, tell me about what kind of restrictions are in place now in Hong Kong?
At the moment, certainly schools were closed until April, and now that has just been extended until the end of May, so there may be a likelihood that school will be virtual until the end of the spring term. We have just had government declare an extension of a lockdown in respect of not allowing non-residents into Hong Kong, and this is to keep the curve down, given the number of imported cases. In addition, we now have greater physical distancing requirements. We are now permitted to, if dining or out in smaller groups, government has requested that we keep our numbers to 4. And there are certain restrictions in public places. Certainly in restaurants, you can only seat 4 to a table, and they're now spreading tables, and in some instances, actually closures of bars or social gathering venues where they feel that there have been more confirmed cases coming through, for instance, in the entertainment industry as well.
Right. Oh, interesting. So some businesses are still open. How about like retail shops and...
The malls and the shops are still open. Okay. I think the hours are now certainly limited, and you'll see, though, I have to say that if you look at, one has to remember the density of Hong Kong.
Absolutely.
Population density here averages almost 7,000 people per square kilometer. In Europe, it's 34 persons per square kilometer. Right. Yeah, in the US, we're speaking about 36 people per square kilometer in terms of density. So you're in a very, very dense population. And I would like to comment on that, because I would say that through the experience of SARS in 2003 and 2004, the general population had been extremely diligent in respect of physical distancing, wearing masks, which, by the way, has been highly controversial. And now I think more and more countries are beginning to understand the need to wear these masks. And it's not a matter of one who is ill, it's a matter of everyone wearing the mask in order to curb the the spread of the virus.
Yeah, it is really interesting you say that, because there was so much confusion about whether you should wear a mask, whether the mask was preventing anything, whether it was just the fact that you weren't touching your face. And then, of course, across Europe, from the beginning of March, they're just unavailable. There are no masks to buy. So it's very interesting that, as you say, when Hong Kong went through the SARS crisis, a lot of lessons were learned, right?
At that time, there were 300 loss of lives during that period. So the community has a very, very long memory, and it remembered that the seriousness of that incident, and understanding again how dense we are in population.
Yeah.
To see that our cases are still under 100 confirmed cases, and we've only had 4 deaths. I think it's quite remarkable, and a tribute to really the discipline and the concern of the community, which takes this situation ever so seriously. And I would even venture to say that today Hong Kong is probably one of the safest cities in which to live. We're equipped medically. There's great concern about the treatment of people and how they're processed through this and where they're diagnosed. We have quarantine quarters. Obviously, if cases continue to rise, then there will be a concern of the lack or the shortage of. So the intent of government and the city is to just ensure that we keep these numbers low. So people are very, very, I'd say, diligent. I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah.
It is really the consideration that people offer one another, even on a walking. Retail is open, government offices are working remotely in many instances, as are offices, in order to give people the opportunity to distance themselves. So that has worked very well in Hong Kong.
That's very interesting. I was going to come on to that. So with your teams, are you working remotely? Are you still, some people office-based? Is it a mixture of the two? And how did you implement sort of the planning around that?
We are working remotely, as well as having a skeleton, a rotating skeleton, so that we maintain physical distance here within the office. And obviously what we've done, and this actually occurred last year when there was another disruption here in Hong Kong that really led to protests here. But that's another matter. So we really have set up a crisis management team that works to answer inquiries, that supports assignees, and particularly I think we work largely with people who come from other destinations. And really it takes you at least 6 months to a year to have the wherewithal. Aware of this and the fact that we're in a bilingual society, our crisis management team have been very dedicated to reach out to individuals and to give them information that they may not have had in order to keep them very much tuned in to regulations or directives or information that help support their presence here.
I mean, that's a really huge point, because of course, you were implementing those kind of contingency plannings right back at the fourth quarter of last year because of the protests. So in a way, I'm guessing you've really prepared.
We're equipped.
Yeah.
Learned, and I think certainly our concern has always been to look after the well-being of individuals in these types of crises that become all the more important in our industry, to take care of individuals and not make any assumptions that people have or do not have the wherewithal. There's no harm in the transparency and the support through education and information is so vital.
It's so true, and it's everyone I've been speaking to throughout the industry, both in these interviews and just one-to-one conversations, have said the same thing, and how their teams have really felt the responsibility on a one-to-one level with the people that you're dealing with. How are your teams coping?
Oh, they're coping very well. I would have to say we all have great concern for one another as well as our clients. I think their spirit is in the bonding knowing that we're here for purpose has just been meaningful. They're actually on 24/7. There's not a phone that you cannot reach within minutes. And this is really not a matter of work, it's a matter of passion and a matter of compassion.
It's that's a lovely way of putting that. It's a matter of passion and a matter of compassion. I love that. I'm going to really think on that, because that is what's come across so strongly from everyone in our industry, that there is such passion there to support. And in a crisis like this, people seem to be just reaching their highest goals of brilliance in our industry. How are people staying positive? I mean, it sounds like, given the protests and now coronavirus, you've been battered quite hard. How is the levels of positivity in Hong Kong?
I think the optimism comes as we understand that the situation can be controlled. We see it within our own environment. That if you take action and you are able to participate through physical distancing, as well as working, let's say, we'll call it Tech Connect, still be in touch with others, because of course we're in a very group-oriented society, not as individualistic, so people are very important. Stay in touch with your relatives, and now we're finding new ways of doing this through technology, so Tech Connect is what we do. I think that optimism, Hong Kong has been through many crises previously that go historically, and people rebound, because I think the general sentiment culturally has a very optimistic perspective in Hong Kong. It's agile and it adapts to change and it gets on with it. So we're all looking forward to the next chapter.
That's really, I mean, it is very interesting. I was talking with one of our cross-cultural trainers yesterday, Sabine Bayaloka, and she was saying, could we in some way undertake some research to assess the cultural impact of dealing with a crisis like this? Because the difference between, as you said, highly individualistic societies and more collective societies like Hong Kong mean the responses are very different, which is fascinating. Tell me, have you, I mean, at the moment, are there any plans in place for Hong Kong, for the government of this, the autonomous government of Hong Kong, to put in any financial support or lending through banking structures, anything like that, for companies that are suffering?
In fact, Hong Kong government has just announced that it will provide a relief package of about 130 billion Hong Kong dollars, and that will go to subsidize wages for a period of 6 months for those industries that have been particularly affected because of the necessity for closure.
Yeah.
And so they've been, I would say, very aggressive in terms of looking after the community. Landlords here, I think, have also been exceptional in respect of looking to provide relief or subsidies or a rent-free period. So I want to comment on the general population, the business community as well. The overall, I think there's just so much empathy that has yet to surface, but it will. You can see touches of it, and everyone being, and organizations as well as government being, looking to ensure that Hong Kong's people survive and will support them.
Again, there's a tremendous amount of optimism around that. I'm delighted to hear that. That's very good news, because again, I'm assuming that major areas, hospitality, are the hotels all closed, or are still some open? Or
well, they're open, but obviously because of the shutdown, the lockdown, and we're not allowing tourists here into Hong Kong at this juncture. They are suffering, as every industry here. The general economy has suffered dramatically, as will other countries, I think we'll see. So we're pretty much in the same boat on a global basis. I think what's really interesting about it is that I don't think any time in my life or your life will we have all had a shared experience, a shared moment or shared chapter when you think about this particular crisis. And that, I think, is a very important factor to remember in order to create bonding with people, no matter where you're from. It's a singular, most shared experience that we will all ever have. With that, there's sadness, there's grief, there's gratefulness, and hopefully there will also give us a greater greater goals for everyone on a global basis.
That's so lovely. I have to comment on your wisdom there. I agree with you. I think that you're right. That we have never had a common experience like this. Everyone in the world going through something so extraordinary and so profound.
No matter who I speak with, whether it be someone from Australia, someone from Austria, someone from New York, someone from Florida. I recently spoke with someone from Spain. And we all, there's a common language in this. And with that, I think the world becomes a better place.
Absolutely. And with that comes hope. Beverly, I've been so privileged to know you. I'm so privileged to have had this time to talk with you.
It's mutual. Absolutely. I'm thrilled to be a part of Euro. You have done such marvelous things for the industry, for individuals, and I can't thank you and Chad enough for your support of this industry and for all the people that participate.
That's incredibly kind of you to say. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It is our privilege to work for such amazing people that are the constituents of Euro. From my heart, it's been delightful, really fantastic to talk to you. I wish you the very, very best, and we'll catch up again soon.
And be well.
You too.
Be safe.
Be safe, be well.